Hello and welcome to the Facility Grid webinar on visualizing your CX data for transparency and success. In today's webinar, we will look at Facility Grid's enhanced charts and graphics for providing instant insights into your project status and progress. My name is Eric Foreman. I'm the CEO of Facility Grid, and today I'll be joined by Alex Kozinets, our Chief Product Officer, who directs our product strategy, customer success, training, and all educational programming. I want to take a couple of minutes to discuss Facility Grid and how it lays the foundation for data visualization. Okay. From there, I'm going to hand the controls over to Alex, who will talk about the importance of data visualization, and then finally, we'll have the Q&A. Facility Grid commissioning software. We're cloud-based software focused on new as well as existing building commissioning. We're built from the ground up by commissioning providers for the commissioning industry. Very commissioning centric. We're focused on both providing benefits to the commissioning agent as well as the building owner. We're headquartered in Boston. We are privately held. All we do is software. We launched in 2012. We have a customer list of both global commissioning engineering firms such as Arup, Burns & McDonnell, Cisco, Siemens, as well as small single-person companies. Very important, I want to discuss our mobile app. Okay. Before getting into the benefits of our mobile app, I want to take a look at the categories within the mobile app. So if you take a look at the first graphic, I want to point out each of the categories. So we have issues, which you can see, issues, observations, checklists, FPTs, equipment, systems, documents, and there's also below that is participants. By capturing that data in our software, we are laying the foundation for data visualization because we're capturing all of that information. We have all that data, and now we want to present it in an insightful way, which is what Alex is going to talk about. Now, to make what we're doing most effective, we want to make sure that all of the project participants utilize Facility Grid software, because if some people are using paper and some people are using our software, we're not going to be capturing everything that we want to present or report on. So what we've done with our mobile app is make it as easy as possible to remove as many barriers as possible to have all project participants utilize Facility Grid. So under the premise that everybody today owns a smartphone, anyone, whether they're online, offline, because our mobile app works in both ways, can use Facility Grid. Additionally, our software can be used on Apple devices, Android devices, as well as Microsoft devices. Additionally, we have training videos for all people on how to use the mobile app, and we conduct one-on-one trainings for people on how to use the mobile app. So again, we're capturing all the information that goes into data visualization, and we're making it as easy as possible for people to contribute their work into Facility Grid. One of the advantages of Facility Grid and what we're doing is improving efficiency. Number one, you can manage all the commissioning tasks in one place. Two, a huge efficiency boost is being able to simultaneously complete multiple checklists and FPTs at one shot, which is what the graphic on the bottom right represents. So picture the column headings being a piece of equipment. You might have 100 pieces of equipment to review or check off. We enable you to do this very quickly. The first column is say yes to all, and boom, it populates all of them. You can go into each individual piece of equipment and put no or enter an issue. We have the ability to perform pre-verification tests to minimize wasted trips to the site, and of course, using our software, elimination of any double entry of information, whether that's going out to the site, typing something into Word or Excel, having to come back to the office, typing into an email or into a report. And we have a PDF integration tool that allows you to have Facility Grid consume any notations on the PDF tool into Facility Grid automatically. Because we have all of the information in Facility Grid that populates a report, whether it's a final commissioning report, a systems manual, that contributes to our ability to produce any report. Facility Grid has a very dynamic and powerful report writing tool that allows you to generate and produce a report that contains all the information or parts of the information that you're capturing in the commissioning process. So where a final commissioning report might take you X amount of hours to produce, or a systems manual might take you, 20 to 40 to 60 hours to produce, Facility Grid gives you the opportunity to produce those reports in a fraction of the time. Okay, with that said, I want to hand the remaining part of the presentation over to Alex, where he will focus on data visualization into your commissioning process.
Thank you, Eric. Yes, I would like to talk about the data visualization for transparency and success of commissioning process. So think of the data that is available to you, to your project team, as you perform your commissioning activities. And how do you visualize that data in order for the entire project team to be able to comprehend it more easily? By visualizing it, it makes it much more usable. It is much more readable, understandable. Number one, you can amplify your message by presenting the data instead of just by numbers, presenting it in charts, presenting it in different bars. How would you do that? Well, let's assume you have 20 open issues on your project. Well, if you just communicate this message to your team, what does that mean? Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Well, if your project has a total of 1,000 issues and most of them have been closed over the past month, and maybe you only have remaining 20 and they've only been open for the past week or so, well, that's not a bad thing. You're going in the right direction, and that's a good message. And again, being able to amplify this, being able to project it the way that you want your project team to understand what the data means is a very strong ability. Providing meaning to data. If you come to the page that displays the progress of issues or progress of checklists or FPTs, and you see a lot of green on that page, typically it's a good thing, right? Typically, if you're towards the end of the project and you see a lot of issues are being closed, a lot of functional tests are being completed, and you see a lot of green, indicating that that's a good thing, right? If you towards the end of the project and you see a lot of red instead, that may not be a good thing. And this is what meaningful information means. Saving time. Again, if you want to get to that information, to that data, to that message that you're conveying very clearly, very easily, the visualization of data saves you time into discovering what's actually happening on your project. Also, visualization can enable you to make better decisions. If you come to an overview page for FPTs and Facility Grid tells you that these certain FPTs have tons of issues, well, probably these are the functional tests you want to concentrate on. Maybe you want to concentrate on other functional tests less than the ones with a lot of issues. Also, being able to share and digest the data. Well, again, if for my weekly meetings, for my monthly meetings, I need to convey this information to my project team, and I can simply generate reports right out of the overview screens, with that information, with the data, with charts, and provide this information to my team. That makes everyone's life easier. That makes everybody more productive. It brings transparency to the process and makes people participate more in the process. Now let's look at how Facility Grid can visualize your data and bring transparency. As you log in into Facility Grid, the first page that you are seeing is the dashboard, and dashboard provides you with the most important statistics about the project. Now, this page is configurable, where you can select which charts or bars you would like to see as you log in into the software. And most likely, you will choose which bars you want to see, which charts you want to see based on where the project is at, right? So if you're in the beginning of the project, maybe there is no reason for you to see the status of the functional tests. You want to concentrate on the issues, how the issues are being addressed. And as you get more and more closer to the end of the project, you want to display the charts related to the functional testing and to the system's pre-functional testing. Now, I'm going to enter one of the projects here. And as I enter it, the first page that Facility Grid shows you is the overview. So our overview page is broken into 3 tabs. So the first one is the issues view. And this is where, when you come to this page, again, you should see enough information for you to understand exactly where the project is at, exactly what the progress is. So let's look at the first chart. The first chart, it's upper left corner. It just shows you the status of all your issues, right? It breaks the issues based on their statuses. And by the way, if you click on any of these statuses, you'll be directed to the issues log within Facility Grid, filtered by the items that you are looking at. The second chart is issues progress. What we felt was important is to not just document the status, but also communicate the progress, right? If, let's assume, you have 100 checklists on your project, and over the past week, the contractor spent tons of time in responding to the checklist questions. But maybe because testing balancing has not been completed yet, they cannot respond to all the questions for those checklists. And so maybe none of those checklists are the 100% complete status, but maybe at the 99% complete. If you were to communicate this information to your team without showing the progress, all you're going to say is that, well, a week ago we had 0 checklists completed, and this week we also have 0 checklists completed. However, this is not the right message. This is not only that it's not right information, it's actually really discouraging to your team because you're not documenting the actual progress. And so what we are showing in this chart is that not only that we showing the total number of checklists or issues, we also showing you what has happened over the past week. How many issues, for example, have been completed? How many have been answered? How many have been still in review? And basically, by communicating this message, you keep your team focused and communicate that message that really means something. We're also going to show you the open issues and the aging of those open issues. So if you look at this chart and you see that you have 90 issues that have been open over 90 days, well, that's a concern, right? Because it means that nothing has been addressed over the past 2 weeks, for example, and there's not a lot of issues that are being addressed. We're also breaking the issues by the project phase, right? So if you need to concentrate just on construction issues, there is really no reason for you to kind of mix up the construction issue with design issues as well. And then also disciplines with most open issues. If I was just to show you all disciplines with every single issue that they have, again, that may be confusing because if one discipline just has one issue, and that's not as big of a deal as some discipline is having tons of issues, right? Again, we're trying to pinpoint your attention to exactly what matters. Assets with most open issues, same thing. If you're getting ready to test a piece of equipment and you know, in this case, Finkel unit 01, and if you know this Finkel unit has 4 open issues, there's a concern, right? You wanna investigate what those open issues are, and you wanna make sure that those issues get addressed before you jumping into the testing. The next chart is all issues activities, open versus closed. Again, this is just to show you the trajectory of what's happening with issues. Without you knowing anything about the project, all you know is that the project completion date is near, and you look at this chart and you see that green is going up and red is going down. Well, that's a great trajectory. That's much better than if it was in reverse. Again, visualization is communicating that message, amplifying your message that the project is at least on the right path. And then also issues to date chart. So this chart again is trying to convey you the message that as you're getting towards that completion date of your project, the more green you see on this chart, the better it is, right? Now, in addition to, as I mentioned to you before, you can click on any of the charts and be redirected to the issues page filtered by those issues. You can also zoom into any information. So if you need to look closer for what was happening over that month, you can do that as well. Now let's look at the test screen. So this screen shows you the status of your checklist and FPT. And as I was showing this, explaining to you before, the importance of the progress in addition of the status, that applies here as well. Again, if I can communicate to my project team that over the past week, there's been increase or decrease in the number of answered questions relative to the number of total issues or total questions, that is a very strong message, right? Again, you are performing your commissioning tasks on the project, your team is involved, your team is running tests, pre-testing equipment, completing checklists. The data that resides in facility grid can show you what's happening in real time. So if you look at the total number of checklists, again, it is broken by different phases or statuses of those checklists. And again, you can click on any of these statuses and be redirected to the checklist page, filtered by those statuses. We talked about the checklist progress and also the checklist status. Again, as you're getting closer and closer to the project completion date, and as you're getting closer to your functional testing, again, you want to see more and more green, right? You also may want to zoom in into a certain period of time and get more in-depth information on that. FPTs have similar functionality. All the FPTs are broken by their statuses, right? You can look at this chart and see where you are in terms of the FPT completion. You can look at the FPT question progress. Again, this is not just your FPT completion, but this is the progress in completion of the test lines, right? So why is it important? Because if I told you that last week you only had 20 FPT completed, and this week you also have only 20 FPT fully completed, would that be the true message? Maybe not. The true message would be that even though not a single additional FPT has been completed over the past week, however, we've been able to complete or run through several FPTs, maybe not fully, maybe partially, but again, this is a good message to convey if that message exists. And then FPT status, again, visualizing the data, visualizing the completion data conveys the information about the status of the FPT process much more easily. Again, if you look at this date, and if you're at the beginning of the functional testing process, and if you know that you're at approximately 50% complete of your FPTs, well, that's a great message. If you came to this page and you actually at the end of the project and half of the chart is in red, now that's a concern, right? Same thing with the pre-verification testing information. You come to the page and you can see what equipment has been pre-tested. That is a good message to convey. The equipment pre-tested before functional testing occurs is something that commissioning teams can greatly benefit from, because once the contractors pre-test equipment, once equipment gets looked at before the actual functional testing, typically commissioning agents have much greater success in being able to successfully test that equipment. Also, we're showing you the FPTs with most open issues. Again, you want to come to the page where that information is available to you right on the spot. So being able to concentrate on equipment, on tests that have the most issues is probably your best bet on looking at what FPTs are at a better shape than others. So in addition to breaking and showing you the information based on the issues and tests, we're also sharing with you the information on the completion of actual tasks. So you probably know that Facility Grid is a task-based software where you can document any task and perform it within the software. And as you perform that task, we're going to track the progress or the status of that task, and if we can report it to you. So by presenting to you all this data, we are aiding the commissioning agents in communicating that transparency to the entire project team. Now, any of these tabs, you can PDF and send the reports to your clients, to your project team. So you can simply click on the PDF button and select which report you would like to generate. And so as an example, this would be an issues report showing you all those charts. And please keep in mind that all this data is a real-time data. So as you or someone on your team changed something, responded to an issue, responded to a checklist question, that information is available to you right away. And when you generate that report, that captures up-to-date information on the status. Similarly, checklist report and FPT reports are also available for you. Again, you can simply click a button and generate these reports right from the overview page. Now let's look at this a little bit deeper, and let's look at the assets page. So when you come to Facility Grid's equipment screen, instead of providing you raw information on number of completed checklists or FPTs, we want to make sure that this information is as visual as possible. So if you look at this first line for this Feinkel unit CO1, well, you know everything you need to know about this piece of equipment. You know that there's 2 open issues on the project, and at the same time, the checklist completed and the FPT is completed. All right. So now you can drill into this information. You can find out what those issues are. Well, since the FPTs are completed, probably those issues are not major. Maybe missing a equipment sticker or something like that. Anyway, so this page gives you right from the front, gives you all tons of different information in terms of what's going on with it. In addition to that, you can look at the equipment type page. Now, equipment type page, equipment types in Facility Grid are similar to families in Revit. So basically, you may have a number of individual instances of each equipment, but however, those instances can be grouped into types. And if you look at this page, you can see that these Feinkel units, all of them have been completed, have completed checklists, and 99% of them have answered FPTs. Also, if you scroll down and if you look at this, switchboard, for example, when you know that the switchboard doesn't have any issues, or no individual switchboards have any issues, but you know that 58% of all the switchboards on the project have checklists completed, and also 69% of all the switchboards have been completed uh, functional testing. Now, in addition to that, we can look at the tests. So if I click on the checklists screen, you will see that again, the information is presented to you to direct your attention at the positive message that you're trying to convey, and also at the negative message if it exists. So basically, if you come to this page and you see that this potential panel board, everything has been answered in terms of the checklist questions, you know that there's one sign-off required for this checklist, and it has been completed, and you know there's 0 issues, well, this equipment is most likely ready for testing. If I now switch to the detailed view of checklists, I can now get more information and more detailed information of what's going on with every checklist per each participant. So if you look at this checklist number 663, this is for an air-cooled condensing unit, AC-1, right? And I can see that the checklist actually has not even been started, right? That's 0% completed. If you just look at this data, you have no idea who is responsible completing this checklist. And if, let's say, if it's at 50%, you would know which trade responded to the questions in this checklist and which hasn't. So for that, you can click on the detailed view, and Facility Grid breaks this information based on each trade involved in completing checklists, right? So if we scroll down to that piece of equipment, we can see, which trades were responsible in completing the checklist, and which trades responded to the checklist questions and which have not. So in this case, you can see that the sheet metal contractor is still has to complete 33 questions, and the controls contractor has 16 questions to complete. You can also tell who signed off on FPTs or on checklists and who has not. Lastly, let's look at the FPTs. Again, what you want to do is you want to come to a page where not only that will show you all the FPTs on the project, we want to direct your attention at the status of each FPT, right? So basically, look at the screen. Look at the first piece of equipment, crack unit number 1. So you know that the FPT has been 100% completed. There is still one remaining issue, right? You can also look at this FPT number 17, right? You can see that this particular FPT, or number 16, I want to say, heat trace, right? Well, there's 0% completion. Again, the information that you want to see on the screen needs to be very easily digestible, and to do that, you need to use colors and you need to use percentages, right? And because of that, because you can always reference it to something else, you can now see what the actual progress is. Now, as you look at these various charts on our overview page, as I mentioned to you before, you can now select which charts you want to see on the dashboard, right? So basically, if I go back to the dashboard page, as I mentioned to you before, you can click on this icon and select which one of those charts that you saw on the overview page can be added to your screen. And most likely, as I mentioned to you before, is that depending on the phase of the project, you will be selecting the charts displayed on the dashboard. You can also select that your setting or selection of those charts applies to all the projects by clicking in this box. All right. Now, let's look at our last item, which is the reports. So, as Eric has mentioned, Facility Grid provides you with capability to generate final commissioning report and the systems manual. Okay, and that is done on the report screen. And this is where you would go within the project and generate those reports. Now, throughout the project, your scope may involve generation of custom reports. Your client may ask you to provide weekly reports on checklists, on status of FPTs, on status of issues, and you should be able to create those reports very easily. And to do that, you just simply come to the custom report page, and let's say it is a weekly issues report. So you can name your report is weekly issues status report, and say that you just want to add the charts. Okay, so once you do that, you can select which charts from that overview page you would like to be added to your report. So let's say it's issues, just select the issues, save it, and now you can simply click on the generate report button, and Facility Grid will generate that report. Now, not only this saves you time by trying to gather this information by yourself, also you will be able to send that information to your client right away without spending any additional time. Let's now look at any questions that you asked me. So the question number one, can I share these charts with my customer? Great question. Yes, that's the whole idea behind generating the reports and providing this information with your clients. So again, that information can be shared by you generating the reports on the screen, or simply going to the overview page and selecting which charts you want to include in your report, and then printing them on this page as I showed you before, and then sharing this information with your project team. Next question. Okay. How to set up percent complete of PVTs and FPTs? Okay, that's a great question. So basically, as I showed you before on the tasks screen, you can see the percent completion of all commissioning tasks, right? And you, as a commissioning provider, you can select which tasks you want to track the status of. This page is fully configurable. You can choose to share this information with clients. You could choose not to share information with client. And as the building owner, if you want to see this information, you can request that the commissioning provider shares this information with you, with the entire project team. So as you perform each individual task in Facility Grid, you simply indicate the status. So for example, if on this particular project, there were 25 meetings that were supposed to occur during the construction phase of the project, every time a meeting takes place, the commissioning authority documents the meeting notes and then changes the status from not started to completed, for example. And again, this information is then available on this page and communicated to the project team. Like I mentioned to you before, you can click on this PDF report icon and PDF this information and share it with your project team. Next question. Actually, there's no more questions. Thank you very much, everyone for attending. I'm going to hand this off to Eric to just close this webinar.
Thank you for your time today. I hope you got a lot out of it. If you have any questions, you can go to facilitygrid.com and see our contact information. Thank you.